50, the way you run, this cannot be all that you have. Is there other stuff that you just have not shown?
Yeah, well, everything couldn't make was 4 episodes.
Right.
So it was a lot. You had to pick and choose things.
I know next year is going to be a number 2, season 2.
I just put it on YouTube.
I just put it on YouTube. Well, we can subscribe and get it. I love it.
Well,
what's your thoughts?
If they cut and paste that part and 50 got enough lawyers, he got enough money that he can handle that situation. But like you just said, he's not the only one doing it. You know, there's a lot of content creators out here, you know, trying to run that whole thing down and not telling the truth. Sarah Chapman was the girl that was in the room, her and her girlfriend. You understand? So, if people are doing that shit and then trying to make it seem like that it wasn't no girls in there, and if they can sue them, I guess, you know, that's between the legal department and they lawyers in them. You know, they wrong for doing that, bro. From day one, when I first told the story, I said the girls was in there. You understand? I didn't come back and say, oh, by the way, there was girls. No, I told the story and I said there was girls up in there. But they recently just made a statement that they found loads of cocaine. I wonder what they did with the cocaine, because they didn't turn it over to the police. They said they found loads of cocaine, razor blades. They said that the sheets were bloody, nasty. They found a whole lot of used condoms.
What's up, guys? You know, I was thinking about this Diddy situation. I talked to a few people, and I seem to think that the reason why their groups are so close is because all of them have a certain type of STD. I think they all got the alphabet. Now, bear with me, guys, because I'm not even trying to cap. I looked at it like this. You know, they're not using condoms, right? So if you're in a party not using condoms, it ain't like you could catch something twice, right? You know, so if you already got something, ain't like you can catch it again. So I believe, you know, one of my theories is that these people at these Diddy parties were so close because they all had STDs. And so therefore all the super freaky stuff, it ain't like you could catch something twice. So almost like having a disease is a rite of passage for that group.
The story of Diddy is rapidly unraveling, starting with former insider Gene Deal, who claims to have revealed censored names from a Diddy documentary, noting that while 50 Cent exposed some, others were hidden. Rumors once whispered behind closed doors are now surfacing through lawsuits, testimony, and witness accounts. Federal prosecutors accuse him of trafficking and racketeering, depicting an empire built to protect power. Former bodyguard Gene Deal claims to hold a final list linked to these gatherings, tied to court filings and years of silence. With over 24 civil suits and Cassie Ventura's 2023 lawsuit prompting others to speak, long-dismissed allegations of exploitation and control are finally coming to light.
Statement. This entire criminal process started when our client, Cassie Ventura, had the courage to file her civil complaint in November 2023. And Kira, we should say that's true. The criminal investigation is largely based on the statements in Cassie Ventura's lawsuit, and intensified, of course, once video from the 2016 hotel security camera became public. The statement from Doug Wigder, her attorney, goes on to say, although the jury did not find Combs guilty of Cassie beyond a reasonable doubt, she paved the way for a jury to find him guilty of transportation to engage in prostitution. By coming forward with her experience, Cassie's attorney Doug Wigdor goes on to say, Cassie has left an indelible mark on both the entertainment industry and the fight for justice. We must repeat with no reservation that we believe and support our client, who showed exemplary courage throughout this trial. She testified for 4 days, often quite emotionally so, giving graphic, explicit detail of what she said she was made to do. And Sean Combs did not deny the facts of the freak-offs. Everything that happened in those hotel rooms did not get challenged by the defense. The defense simply saw it differently, as something that went on in a personal, consensual relationship, not trafficking.
Get into this lawsuit, right? Cassie, she testified that Diddy would force male escorts to urinate in her mouth during freak-offs.
My man, you know, that's a touchy and difficult subject when you're a man and you have daughters.
You understand? And that's why we as men need to play a prominent part in our daughters' lives, because you get men like this that's got this corrupt and devious minds that they don't respect womanhood. You understand? That's some nasty, perverted things that you want to have somebody urinate in the mouth of somebody who gonna be talking to you in your face, who gonna be kissing on you, who gonna be eating food with you. What kind of deviant and crazy mind you have to have somebody do that to somebody that you care about, you supposed to care about, that you supposed to love, man. You know, something is sick about that, brother. You can't tell me that that's some kind of fetish. You know what I'm saying? You know, he didn't outdid R. Kelly with that there, bro, when I heard that. So that's an effed up subject and situation, man, to even imagine that you got somebody doing that to somebody that you supposed to care about and you supposed to be in a relationship with.
Yeah, when I heard that, that was crazy to hear. Disturbing, man.
You can't make this, bro. This is made for XXX TV. The stories that we're hearing about the things that Cassie has done, and we got these people out here believing that, you know, she ain't did this with nobody. I ain't seen not one of her ex-boyfriends. I ain't seen not one of the people that she dated in high school or none of that stuff come out and say that she was doing that way before she got to Diddy. So
the shockwaves from these lawsuits are ripping through every corner of the industry, forcing longtime allies to step back as a once untouchable figure watches his power get dismantled in open court. What was protected by influence and intimidation is now being stripped away, detail by detail, with reporters tracking every development and insiders who stayed silent for years suddenly facing pressure to speak. This is no longer just about one individual's alleged actions. It is an exposure of a culture built on silence, fear, and blind loyalty that allowed misconduct to thrive. The trial is becoming a clear warning about the cost of unchecked authority, revealing how deeply Diddy's influence reached, how careers were shaped or stalled, how voices were muted, and how an empire was guarded through control rather than credibility.
But do I believe she knew he was allocating different monies to different places and which way it was going, which offshore accounts, which Swiss banks accounts and all this shit was going in? Nah. I think she just was enjoying the fruits of the labor.
But why you believe she knew about the freak-offs?
Because one of the witnesses said she was there. And do you remember this, bro? Check it out. People tell off on themselves so much, man, and I don't understand when people don't catch it. Diddy has said this. He said, when I give a party, I have to have an ambulance outside of the house. Paramedics ready. That people have to take IVs. Remember the time that him and his mama kissed each other on the lips?
Yeah, I remember that video.
Do you remember that both of them was getting an IV at the same time?
Yeah, I did notice that, yep.
That's from the Diddy freak off party. And I'm gonna say allegedly.
So let me ask you this. You knowing her at one point, you knowing her personally, is she the kind of person that, you know, will be a part of a freak off or no?
I think that she liked to party and she partied with young people. She's always been like that. she always copied or emulated Little Kim and Mary J. Blige. Or they emulated her. The blonde hair, the nails, the high boots, the age-appropriate, inappropriate clothing that I want to say, because I know people going to drag me through it. What you mean? She's 70, 80 years old. She don't have to wear she can wear hot pants if she want to. Okay.
And so, all of a sudden I hear Diddy, who's in her bedroom. He's like, yo, babe, come here. And she's like, yeah, no problem, but hold on one second. I have my computer on, my personal information out on my computer. Let me just take it off and I'm coming. Yo, all of a sudden I just see this big ass bottle of liquor come flying past her face and just hit the wall, bro. It didn't even break, which was crazy, but hit the wall and fell down. She got scared. He comes out the room, grabs her by her hair, bro, drags her off that chair and drags her into the bedroom, and I just hear, pop, pop, pop. When I tell you to come here, you f***ing come. Pop, pop. And she's just screaming, I'm sorry. Yeah, I got crazy goosebumps right now, man. Like, when I was testifying against this, bro, like not in the court, like when HSI first reached out to me about this, I, like, from the day that they started interviewing me all the way up to the point where we was just about to go to trial, bro. Every time I told this story, bro, I was having a meltdown, bro. The guilt that I had, bro, because I just remember standing up, I'm gonna kill this, and then sitting down like, you're gonna die, bro. You're gonna die, bro. All goons is in the next room, the next apartment right next door, bro. You know what this is, bro. You know who this is.
On the witness stand, Cassie Ventura detailed a life defined by control, pressure, and manipulation, explaining that after meeting Diddy at just 19, she was quickly pulled into a professional and personal dynamic where boundaries no longer existed. Her testimony made it clear that the so-called private gatherings were not random or spontaneous, but repeatedly organized events centered around his demands, forming a calculated pattern rather than isolated moments. She alleged she was pushed into situations she did not choose, while being monitored and recorded, reinforcing a system designed to dominate rather than collaborate. Her statements stripped away years of dismissed rumors, exposing what prosecutors now describe as a deliberate structure meant to intimidate and control. For investigators, her account is a cornerstone of the case, and for Gene Deal, it aligns with what he claims to have witnessed behind closed doors. Cassie further explained that this control reached far beyond personal moments, extending into her career, daily life, and ability to make independent decisions. Prosecutors argue this demonstrates the events were not mutual or experimental, but part of an organized pattern of abuse, and her decision to speak out has encouraged others to come forward, helping establish a clear timeline of exploitation that now anchors the case and proves that truth, once spoken, can dismantle even the most carefully guarded power structures.
Well, we know he's going to the Diddy parties, and I know that it's... I know what usually happens at the Diddy party, or what we told us happened at the Diddy parties. Maybe he needs to see it for himself, man. Maybe he needs to go there and really be involved in some things that could help save some individuals while they going to those parties. Or maybe he just going to, man, it's hard to even talk about. Why would you find a religious man, when you know that the saints supposed to separate themselves from the sinners? And why would a religious man like himself be at a party which ain't nothing but sin that's going on, bro? Whether it's drinking, maybe fornicating, maybe, like I said, men on men, women on women. It's hard to put in perspective unless he's involving himself what is actually going on at the parties. It's hard, brother. Bruh, you know, you can't, I really don't know why, as a spiritual advisor to him, that they buddy while he got a party with him like that and be at his parties. It's got to be, maybe it's something more that meets the eye.
Gene Deal, Diddy's former bodyguard, has been sounding alarms for years, long before court filings and headlines forced this story into the open, quietly pointing to a darker reality behind the empire he once helped protect. Now, as the trial peels back new layers, Gene has stepped forward with what he describes as a final list of high-profile artists who were negatively affected by what allegedly took place at those private gatherings. He does not speak as a distant critic, but as someone who was present, witnessing environments where influence overpowered accountability and silence was treated like currency. According to his account, these events were not about entertainment or excess, but about leverage and control, with major figures in hip-hop and R&B allegedly leaving with lasting consequences no one dared acknowledge publicly. His claims strike at the core of an industry that thrived on looking away, forcing uncomfortable questions about who knew, who benefited, and who chose not to intervene. What gives Gene's statements added weight is his acknowledgement of personal risk, as he maintains that remaining silent only shields those in power. Over time, he has established himself as someone deeply familiar with the inner mechanics of Diddy's world, and with renewed attention on the case, his words are resonating more strongly than ever. Many believe his revelations could finally shatter long-standing myths surrounding Diddy's legacy, exposing how influence and corruption spread unchecked, while also underscoring the reality that those who speak truth often pay a price, so future generations do not have to.
Those people who was caught at Diddy's party did not know that he had 250 tape recorders in that house. That's a big house. But he had 250 tape recorders in that house that they took, that the feds found. So now with them finding all that and you being at a Diddy party, you know you may have done something that was caught on one of those tapes. You just better pray to God that they don't recognize you. Those people who know that they did something, no, they're not going to speak out. They're not going to say nothing. What part of the game is that? They are not going to come forward and tell on themselves. Nah, not at all. Ice Cube, he said it himself, bro. He said that Diddy's been targeted because of what he said about those folks and those people. Now, the people who was on those tapes may feel like Diddy might be targeting them. Because if he's asked about who is this, who is that, and he's under oath with the federal government, he got to tell them. He's not going to plead the fifth.
Yeah, I know that got to be a terrible feeling, man. And you know you did something wrong at Diddy party, and you hoping and praying that it's not caught on tape.
But they don't think they did nothing wrong. That's their lifestyle. That's their lifestyle, bro. I ask guys all the time, if two men lay down, how many homos get up? What you mean? I mean what I mean.
The so-called final list Gene Deal refers to is described as both disturbing and far-reaching, even though he has stopped short of publicly naming every individual involved, noting that speculation about who attended those private gatherings has circulated quietly for years. According to Deal, several high-profile artists who built their public images around power, success, and untouchable status became entangled in a hidden system of compromise that carried serious personal consequences. He claims that some attendees left those events with long-term health issues allegedly connected to what took place, while publicly continuing to be celebrated as industry icons. Behind closed doors, however, Deal suggests fear dominated their lives, not only over potential exposure of their involvement, but also over the personal fallout that could end careers overnight. This revelation goes beyond damaging reputations and instead exposes how deeply the culture of silence ran, where protecting Diddy also meant protecting everyone connected to him at any cost. It raises uncomfortable questions about accountability, pressure, and complicity within the industry, including whether silence was enforced through fear, influence, or ambition. By linking these alleged consequences back to those gatherings, Deal adds urgency to the narrative, illustrating how unchecked power and excess can leave lasting scars that extend far beyond headlines. If proven true, these claims could force a reckoning within hip-hop, permanently reshaping its legacy and challenging the credibility of some of its most powerful figures.
I don't have no qualms in her defending her son. You got to understand that, man. Miss Janice Combs been around for a long time, and she's a trendsetter. Where you think Little Kim, Mary J. Blige, and the rest of them get that blonde hair from? She popped up in the club with the blonde hair, the nails, the eyelashes, way before they was doing it. Your people used to think that she was Lil' Kim's mama, or Lil' Kim was trying to be her daughter, because they used to say they look alike. But I don't have no qualms in her defending her son. That's what she's supposed to do, man. And if she didn't, I would look different at her. And, you know, like I said, I don't blame her, man. You know, I really don't blame her. I remember a time like, and this when I stopped working for Diddy, is that we was in the office and she's just come at me, and it wasn't in a way in which you do and a person that's there to protect your son. You know what I'm saying? She's just always bothered me for whatever reason. You know, people laugh and joke and say that when I say this back in the day, you know, I'm 6'7", 30 in the waist, handsome in the face. You understand? She used to come at me a certain way that it made Puff real mad this particular day. And I don't know what happened. I'm outside the office and he got Justin there. So my responsibility is him and Justin, nobody else. I don't give a goes on in that office, what happens, stuff like that. My responsibility is him and Justin. That's it. Now they got interns, they got everybody walking around the office the whole 9 yards. She said, yo, Gene, I need you to go to my car. You know, I said, go to your car? She said, yeah, I got some food in my car. I want you to go get it. I said, I'm not here for that. That ain't what I ain't here for that. I'm not going to get your food. She was like, why everybody do what I tell them to do except you? I said, because I don't work for you. I said, I don't work for you. Why are you always asking me when you got all these interns around here to do like that? And Puff must have heard something. Puff came out that door. Why you always messing with Gene? Leave Gene alone. He was talking to his mother like this. He was like, yo, leave Gene alone. You always messing with Gene. Stop it.
One of the most startling names in John Deal's claims is Janice Camalmas, Diddy's own mother. While she is not accused of direct involvement, Deal alleges she was aware of the so-called freak-off lifestyle and chose silence over intervention, suggesting that complicity extended beyond employees and associates into the family itself. If accurate, this implies that Diddy's influence was so pervasive that even those closest to him tolerated or at least turned a blind eye to his actions, raising the chilling question of just how much control he exerted over everyone around him. These allegations complicate the narrative of Diddy as merely a wealthy and famous figure shielded by status. They hint that loyalty within his household may have been enforced through silence, creating a personal layer of protection that mirrored the professional. Deal's claims about Janice Camalmas add a moral dimension to the story, suggesting that the web of safeguarding around Diddy was far deeper and more calculated than outsiders could imagine, and that the culture of silence ran not only through his empire, but through his family as well.
Denzel Washington was at this party?
Yep.
Birdman was at this party?
Yes, he was.
And Young Jock?
Yep.
And you're telling me Denzel was there and it was after 1 o'clock when he supposedly left?
And beanie, socks, and a gold chain.
So you're telling me Denzel Washington was butt naked. He had a beanie on, socks on, and a gold chain, and that's it. In front of children. Funny. Because he sure portrays himself to be holier than thou.
Yep. So a lot of them do.
I think you also told me that one of those men have a birthmark.
Left thigh.
So one of those men have a birthmark on their left thigh.
I've been a party favor at a few parties, and I'm gonna rewind a little bit. After a certain point of being traumatized, after a certain point of realizing that nobody loved me for me and just for what I could do, or whatever the fact that it was, what people thought about me when I was a little kid, I was naive like that. Do you understand what I'm saying? So after a certain point, I didn't give a damn who did what. I just wanted to be seen. And I know that a lot of people can say, yeah, there's times where a point in your life where you're just like, I just want somebody to give a damn. I just want somebody to see me, and I just want somebody to love me. Okay? So I was there a lot because I've been abused a lot. And after a certain point, I went really numb, didn't care. A lot of people that were with me called me a traitor because they felt like I just left. I'd be mad at me too, because I stopped giving about anything. I didn't care.
One of the clearest takeaways from Gene Deal's revelations is just how deeply the entertainment industry relied on silence to protect power. Record labels, managers, artists, executives, and collaborators all witnessed fragments of the truth bruises, breakdowns, and the bizarre parties, but Diddy's influence and the lure of money kept them quiet. Speaking out meant risking careers, contracts, and sometimes personal safety. So for many, pretending nothing was happening became the easiest option. This culture of silence allowed the alleged freak-offs to continue unchecked for decades, drawing both rising stars and established icons into a system without accountability. Now, with Deal's disclosures and Cassie Ventura's testimony, the wall of secrecy is finally cracking, but it prompts the question, why did it take so long for the truth to surface? The reality is that the music industry thrives on rigid power hierarchies, rewarding compliance and punishing dissent, creating an environment where influential figures could operate without consequence. Insiders are now scrambling to claim ignorance, but the damage is irreversible. Decades of silence protected the powerful, and only now, under the combined weight of public exposure and legal scrutiny, is that protection being stripped away, revealing how profit and influence often outweighed justice until the truth could no longer be denied.
Do you believe that Jay and Puffy is close, even though Jay's lawyer came out and said they're not?
Because Jay-Z and Puff was given an assignment, and that was to destroy East Coast rap. And what I mean by that, and I know people gonna be like, yo, Gene is out of his mind and everything like that. Check this out, brother. Is that New York rappers was getting 80 to 100, 800 to 1.2 million, or some larger than that, and sign with labels back then. And they was getting a lot of money to make albums and records. When they had guys down south that these labels was paying $250,000, $300,000 on record deals, and these guys was bringing back platinum albums and everything like that. So what they had to do was they had to keep New York rappers down. That's one reason, other than the Irv God that 50 was going through and the poison they was putting in about 50, he had to go elsewhere to California, or with Jay and not with Dre and Eminem to get a deal. They did not want East Coast rappers to get big. They were suppressing all new artists that was coming out of New York.
If Jean Deal's list proves accurate, the repercussions could shake hip-hop to its very foundation. We're talking about legendary artists with global followings suddenly tied to some of the genre's darkest alleged secrets, and the impact would be seismic. Hip-hop has always prided itself on authenticity, resilience, and truth. But what happens when its biggest stars are revealed as either victims of manipulation or complicit in a culture of silence? Deal warns that the fallout isn't just personal, it's symbolic, threatening to taint the legacy of the music itself. Fans are already debating what this could mean for the future of the genre. Can hip-hop maintain its cultural weight if its icons are shown to have been compromised? For younger generations, the genre has served as a source of identity, empowerment, and truth. And revelations like these could force a reckoning that questions the foundations of that influence. The industry will be pushed to confront its role in enabling silence and protecting power, and hip-hop may face its most profound cultural accountability yet, establishing a new standard of transparency and responsibility for generations to come.